commodity maps. Like trying to get just the basic steps are going to be get a country's shapefile from somewhere online, right? We'll go to Natural Earth and download a country's shapefile. We'll bring it into the ArcMap. We will select the countries that Wikipedia tells me that rare earth minerals are found on. We might, if Wikipedia doesn't immediately tell us where they're going to go, like stage 2, we might just pick a country and say they're going to go there just as a sample map. And then we'll, color it and bring it into PowerPoint and make a very simple this goes here map. So let's see how easy that actually is. So the first thing is going to be going to Natural Earth Data. I have it saved there, but it's naturalearthdata.com and /downloads. This is the best place to go to get GIS data, common GIS data. The way to interpret this starting point is if you want to make a detailed map, you go on the left where it's closer in. If you want to make a more general map, you go to the right. One thing they do a lot for like a country shapefile is they'll make one version that is meant to be viewed all of the countries at the same time, which has a whole lot less detail along the coastline because it'll make the file way easier to work with because it's smaller file size. There's not all these little inlets along the coastline. And then when on the left, if we downloaded that one, it would be much more detailed. So you could zoom in on it and see real good detail. So that's why they separate it like this. So we'll just do the highest level we can get. Now, cultural clearly is like political boundaries because they're not natural features, and then physical is like rivers and streams and things like that. So cultural. First thing is admin 0 countries. Admin 0, 1, 2 is just a way of saying the first level, admin 0, is the actual country. The second level, admin 1, is like a province within the country. Admin 2 is like states within a province, and it keeps going down from there, down to like, zip codes in the U.S. So we'll just download. I like the one without lakes because I'll show you in a minute. Like, in U.S. maps, sometimes you see they cut right through the Great Lakes, but other maps you see have the lakes cut out on top of them. So this one actually has the lakes stamped out of the map, so it's just kind of an empty spot. So I downloaded that. I'm gonna say show in folder, and I'm gonna take this file and I'm gonna put it in our let's put it in commodities map folder. Oops. Okay. This should be really the only one. If we want to just have this country's file in our map, we could do that. I would imagine we might when we're working with the other class, bring in city points, maybe size the cities by how many people are there, maybe put labels on for the cities. We can of course put labels on the countries, but this is kind of the point where you try to think of like what else you might want to put on there. But they should be fairly simple. We really just want to show distribution around the world. So that's a shapefile, right? It came with like 8 extra files. We're going to open a new ArcMap. This will take a second. So let's look up rare earth minerals in Wikipedia. Now, of course, this is what the other class is doing, is looking up these things and coming up with locations for us, and they're going to write a whole report outside of that, outside of the mapping part. So we can see there's a lot of data on them, and if we just go to Rare earth mineral. I wonder. Usually Wikipedia pages have locations. Maybe I was thinking of elements. I think that's where. Yeah. Oh, those are locations. Okay, here we go. China, outside of China. Oh, this is perfect. Then it goes, there's refining plants in Malaysia. And then there's geopolitical considerations. But we... Okay, so if I was doing this, I would make a little Excel file that said production, and then where, and then refining, consumption. And it looks like we had China is where it's made, refining in Malaysia. I saw Mongolia in there. Clearly this is not the most detailed analysis that we could do. Okay, so China makes it. And then outside of China, here's demand. Some countries are stockpiling. Searching, so for alternative sources, we can say Australia, Brazil, Canada, South Africa, Tanzania, and Greenland, and the U.S. Okay. And there's a neat one, Vietnam to China, or to Japan. It says they signed an agreement. Okay, so let's stop there, and we'll just make a map showing kind of these relationships. So we have an arc map, and we're going to grab our countries, and there we go. One trick when you're working with country data is to exclude our Antarctica. Right, so we're going to do one of these definition queries. Usually there's not stuff in Antarctica on a map. And it's enormous on the bottom of the map in most projections. So if you just do definition query, and I believe sovereignty is one name for the country. Yep. So Antarctica. So I'm just gonna. Oops. I did it the opposite way. So I did only show Antarctica. So I'm just gonna do not equals to Antarctica. Wait. I forget now. There we go. All right, that looks better. So we're gonna start there. That's a trick. And you can see when we pick that lakes cut out, you can see they're just not there, which means that if you made a map out of this, it would look more detailed just from the get-go. So then what we'll do is we're just going to make a new field in this data that's called consumption, I guess, and then we'll just field calculate in the stage of consumption for all those countries we just captured. So we're just going to, in any data you get in a shapefile from Natural Earth, you can just add fields to it. Adding a field is a safe thing to do to data because you're not deleting anything. You're just throwing data in there. So it tells me that the field name is too long because shapefiles can only have the short names. So there's two good assumption. Okay. Now if I go to the end of this list of data we got from Natural Earth, one way to do this is from the map. The other one is to just sort this table alphabetically and go pick them. One trick is you can right click on a field and say freeze, and it will just put it over here on the left. And if I only want to work with that one and this one, I'm just going to freeze those both at the left. So now I have a nice little setup here. And I have my list here. And I'm going to say, all right, production China, and I'm going to field calculate in. Now, you can either field calculate or just be editing in the data. Right, so I can do that. And the most dangerous thing is that when you're doing this, if you don't have something selected, you could just by mistake wipe out all your data. So a lot of people would tell you to just start editing this. And then when you're in here, you can just type in the field. So you see that turned white, so it's editing. So Malaysia and Mongolia are where it gets refined. So LM. Oops. Copy that. Mongolia. Okay. Alternatives in a lot of places. Australia. Brazil. Canada. South Africa. I just did page down to shoot, down a page. Oop. South Africa. Maybe. Huh? Sometimes countries have multiple names. Like the country, the Ivory Coast is the Côte d'Ivoire. Where? Oh wow, look at that! I wonder why it didn't sort. Coach, what is it? Yeah. It's like sometimes it's the French name and sometimes it's the Ivory Coast. So when you sort countries, there's a bunch like that where you got to be careful. Like, I don't know. You just got to know from experience a lot of times. Sometimes they still don't have South Sudan, right? If you get a file from 10 years ago, there's no South Sudan, right? And Yugoslavia, right? Sometimes you even get that before it was broken up. Sometimes Macau is part of China. It's like a whole thing. But anyway, so then Vietnam and Japan, we'll just kind of grab those. RSTUV. To Japan, maybe, and then I'll go to Japan and just do like from Vietnam. JKL. Okay, done editing of our extremely simplistic, not probably accurate data. So then, of course, when you're done editing, stop editing and save your edits, or save them first and then stop. And then since we have all this nice data in there, we can go to the symbology and do categories and scroll down to our new field. Oh, maybe it put it at the top. It did. Consumption. And we got colors. What I'll typically do is, I suppose just turn all other values off because there's 0 of them right here. You can see the count. This one is countries that don't have anything we're interested in, so we're just going to make them light gray. Like medium. The lightest gray actually works a lot of the time. And then another trick is if you have the automatic gray outline, if you change that to be a little bit lighter, it always looks nicer. And then let's say I wanted to do that for all of the symbols, just change that. Oh, I don't know if that's going to work. Skip that. All right, so then we won't mess with the colors yet. But there we go. That's pretty nice. So we'll be able to all do that. One thing I noticed is the US is an alternate, but I forgot to mark it. So one way you can do that is just I selected the US, go in the attribute table, and say, like this is dangerous for. So I just know it's selected, so I can field calculate in for just the US. And I'm going to do that alternate. And so, like, you know, the ways I knew that that was selected when I opened the table was it says there's one selected down here. You know, done it a million times, but oh, I must have spelled it differently. It's funny. There, so the one way you can do, you can see that it went away because it's not none of all other values is not. So if I do add values, it'll tell me which one's missing. Oh, so I did alternative before. So if you have two things like this and you just want to symbolize it, you're moving quick, like fast, you can click on them both, control, click on one, hold control, hit the other one, and right click and group those. And just say whatever you want in the label, in the legend. So then, I didn't mind that, you know, I like this green. This is a special case. Okay, let's just make that worked out pretty well. And then production, we'll just make like a very bad color. And refining, yeah, like pink for refining, sure. So if this is as far as you got for the other class, you're doing pretty well, right? So the things that we're going to do to really fix this up are, one, add a nice projection to it. I don't know if you remember from last semester, right? But you've seen these world maps that have these really cool ways of showing them. So we're going to go into the layers, properties, and coordinate system. And then if you go to project, no, I think it's, yeah, projected, and then world. And then you got all these cool ones. And it's worth going through and trying them all because they're actually pretty neat. The one I like the best a lot of the times is called Winkle Triple. And the way you can try them all is you just move this out of the way and you hit apply. And then you can be like, oh, that's neat. And then you can try that one, whatever that is. Kylie agrees. You would say, oh, wow, that's neat. Oh, wow, that's neat. I'm going to get you to say it, Kylie. Oh, wow, that's neat. Isn't that neat? Robinson, this is a classic one. Robinson. Stereographic is pretty cool. Oh, maybe I was thinking of something else. Wow, what did this do? That is interesting. So anyway, I like Winkle. Here, let's see if there's any other good one. Oh, Malawide is interesting. And you know, these are all just like it's easier to tell if you have those lines on it. But anyway, so let's just do a Winkle. Great. So simple map here. I think just for the sake of no, let's do the full thing. Here we go. So then I'm going to go to a layout, and since I'm doing this in a certain way, I'm going to remove the outline. Just go to frame, and you probably won't get this. We may or may not do this whole thing, right? So like right now, you could just export this as a PNG, put it in PowerPoint, and then put a bunch of text and dots on top of it, right? Whatever you want to do, and it would look nice, right? And you know, we went over how to do a legend last time, but I'm going to show you a really cool way to bring this into PowerPoint. So we're going to change the size of this print. At least we're going to do landscape. So it'll fit on a PowerPoint slide. And because the world is landscape, if you look at it like this. So I can pull the edges and then I can zoom in, but then I always need to zoom in a little bit more. And you kind of get like that. So even now, you can see, maybe I'll make it a little bit more flat. Just chop off 2 inches maybe. There we go. And then if I pull the sides over, see, we're going to get one map right on the edges of the boundary there. Okay, beautiful. Now you probably want to do insert a legend, and we're going to be able to edit this in PowerPoint this way. So you're just going to click right through and bring this whole thing into PowerPoint. All right. So we're going to save this. And we're just about done. You'll see it's interesting. Like rather than do the whole editing process in here. Okay, we're just going to do export map. And you remember we've done this for PDFs and PNGs and things, but we're going to do an EMF, which is like a Microsoft objects file that exports all the little shape files as little, kind of graphics, which I'll show you what we'll do with it in a second. You can just leave all the options how they are, and then we can just put this right into our presentation area. So I'm just going to go grab this EMF, and I'm going to drag it into PowerPoint, and already looking pretty nice. If you right-click on this EMF and you say group, and then you go ungroup, it'll say a little message. You just hit yes, and then if you right-click on it again, group, ungroup, it'll give you every country as a piece. So you could move Russia around, do whatever you want. But imagine the other person in the other class finds, oh no, South Sudan or some country that I know, Argentina, is actually one of these alternate countries. They can go and just color it from here. They can just turn it green and make it the same green, and they can edit anything they need. So they don't have to keep coming back to us, which is my favorite thing about this type of map. And then you can see here, we can just do rare earth minerals, and we can delete whatever we want, and those aren't anything. And one thing about ArcMap is it doesn't have very good tools for arrows, which we can do here. We can just do insert shapes, and there's a whole bunch of options. I like these arrows, which if we just did the Vietnam to Japan thing and put a little shadow on it, of course. Make it nice bright blue. And then we can just insert a little text box. Vietnam supplies Japan based on a special deal. You know, you might advise them to put down at the bottom that they got it from Wikipedia. Source Wikipedia. And you could put the link in there. I don't think you're supposed to get things off Wikipedia, but they'll probably do a better job at research. Great. And then you might do, since we know that China supplies everyone else, make a bright yellow arrow. And that's probably good enough, right? China supplies refiners. And Malaysia. And then if you need a little extra line, you can disconnect it. It's not bad. Okay, so lots of steps there, but you can see by the time you get here, anybody could do this. So it's really valuable to simply get your simple country file, just download the same one that I got on Natural Earth, because that one is very easy to manipulate in PowerPoint as well, because it doesn't have as many vertices and all that. And just mark the countries down as the different stages in the production cycle with that, just editing the data. And then export it as an EMF, bring it in here, ungroup it, you know, and you're almost there. One last trick is, if you have the countries, you can just start adding shadows to them, and it looks good. Right, so China is like a big deal, so I just put a shadow on it, and it pops out from the other countries. Okay.